Hello, good people. How are you doing? I've seen it's been very cold here the last couple of weeks. But anyway, I've seen an interesting article from the Washington Post about that it's the in thing to have a lot of plants in the house. Let's take a look at the article right now so we don't have to waste time me telling you about it. Let's take a look at it. Okay, we'll get it set up. Here. This is kind of an upbeat article. Millennials, houseplants, make a home. By Lavanya Ramanathan, The Washington Post. On Sunday mornings, Hilton Carter's girlfriend makes herself scarce from their one-bedroom apartment in an old Baltimore mill. Carter, who is 6'5", bearded, and the sort of man who wears a denim shirt and a ball cap with his peach shorts, begins a 4-hour grooming ritual. Not his own, of course. The hours when others are sipping bottomless mimosas, that's when Carter, a 37-year-old artist, feeds and inspects and prunes and otherwise tends to the Great Dane of a fern cascading down above his bed. It's when he, quote, bathes the tiny air plants perched like tropical bugs on his geometric mirror. This is when he can fuss over the verdant Monstera, a trademark Swiss cheese, holes in its sprawling leaves that sways gently in the breeze, coming off the Jones Falls River just outside the window. There are 180 plants here. This means every Sunday there are yellowed leaves to pluck away and tossed, bugs to keep an eye out for, the great existential mysteries of light and air and sun to consider. Quote, there's a lot of expletives flying all day, Carter says of his weekend labor. It's just what is happening to you. You were fine for the last year in this spot. It hurts. Greenery has been a motif among the achingly hip for at least 3 years, when blouses flecked with leaves and palm trees and massive birds of paradise first strutted down the runways at Marc Jacobs and Marni, and then floated all the way down to the Gap. But suddenly, the Tropicalia is finding its way indoors. Even in drab, gray concrete jungles like Baltimore and New York, young people are turning their apartments into, quote, house jungles. Others prefer the term urban rainforests or the cutesy jungalow. In this aspirational landscape, outlandishly and photographically lush, is ideal, and filling your home with plants. In this aspirational landscape, outlandishly and photographically lush, is ideal, and filling your home with plants is, quote, urban wilding. In less enlightened time, we probably would have just called it decorating. Annie Dornan Smith, a 22-year-old London-based graphic artist, guesses she may have as many as 50 plants in her flat. Quote, they're not particularly expensive, and it's another way to have something to look after, she says. This summer, she published Home Jungle, an illustrated guide to selecting and rearing the ubiquitous architectural plants of this trend. The slender and spiky Dracaena and Areca palms, the birds of paradise, the lanky snake plants, and fiddle leaf fig. Quote, fiddle leaf fig offers an employee of Little Leaf, a twee plant and paper shop that opened in the winter in Washington, D.C., She nods in the direction of the hot cellar, a sprawling bush-like number laden with floaty, almost translucent, waxy green leaves, roughly the size of dinner plates. The fiddle leaf fig has achieved what is known in the Instagram universe as Holy Grail status. But, as with Pokemon, the plant-obsessed are collecting them all. Quote, "They're each your own little baby," says Joseph Wanek, 31, who lives in a mid-century house in Iowa with his partner Nick Sellers and at least 45 plants. Quote, "At first Nick was not wanting me to bring them home," says the prop stylist. Quote, "He was saying I was a plant hoarder. Nick came around. Quote, it became more and more of an obsession," the 28-year-old art director says. The buying habits of millennials have a way of attracting attention. Shops have become wise to the growing number of novice green thumbs. Quote, "This has caught on," Carter says. "The nurseries have figured this out. The hardware stores have figured this art." That's Carter, is this gentleman here. Hilton Carter, 37, has always enjoyed plants, but his Baltimore apartment now holds 180. And it's a perfect example of a growing trend to have plants in the house. Anyway, this has caught on, Carter said. The nurseries have figured this out. The hardware stores have figured this out. Of course, some people have always had a ficus around the house, but a faddish interest in houseplants in America seems to perennially blossom and then die out. Quote, "One of the first waves of houseplants was after the Industrial Revolution," says Tova Martin, author of several books on the subject, including, quote, The Indestructible Houseplant and The Unexpected Houseplant. People were building and then moving into cities, she says, and they began to want to establish a sense of, well, rootedness. Martin has a theory about the houseplant revival of 2017. In the 1970s, there was Watergate and war and turmoil in the Middle East, and housewives hung ivies, pothos, and devil's backbone from their macrame plant hangers. Quote, "It's very cyclical," Martin says. "I think the current cycle has a lot to do with people hunkering down. A houseplant is therapeutic. It gives you something to nurture. There are other factors, of course, as with almost everything these days. Instagram. Go on, search the hashtag @UrbanJungle or @Monstera Monday or @PlantGang. Carter's plant-filled account has 33,000 rabid followers. Quote, PlantGang, @PlantGang, that's Carter, that's Carter's, Hilton Carter. That's his Instagram account. "It's just nice," Dornan Smith says. Quote, "when you take pictures of your house and there is this big sculptural plant in the background." Little Leaf opened late last year in the model of London's Cool Kid Plant Boutique, Geoflora, and New York's The Sill. "We opened in the dead of winter," says Little Leaf owner Amanda McClements, "and even so, we had a hard time keeping plants in stock. When it was barren and cold outside and green and lush in," she says, "we had so many people say, 'I just want to stand here.'" So people, the trend to get to have a lot of plants in the house is going on. Okay. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again soon. Take care.